This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we welcome guest Bill Gasiamis, host of the Recovery After Stroke podcast, where he shares conversations with stroke survivors and the challenges they are overcoming. After experiencing a hemorrhagic stroke, Bill embarked on a journey of recovery and growth. He details this in his book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. Through his work, Bill guides others on a path to post-traumatic growth after stroke. In this episode, we dive into an inspiring story of stroke recovery and personal transformation. Bill reveals how stroke became a turning point for overcoming the victim mindset, embracing responsibility, and finding strength through communal support. Tune in to discover how resilience and post-traumatic growth can emerge from life's most challenging moments. Thank you for joining us for Part 2, Bill Gasiamis' interview.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. Beyond Stillness offers a moment of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, we are a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity. I'm your host, Molly Bucola. And now we take a moment of pause to honor the wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope that are alive in our hearts. And we give thanks. Part 2, Bill Gasiamis' interview. Bill, thank you for sharing your story. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself as a kid and how that applied to your recovery?
Myself as a kid, I was the younger brother of an older brother. And when I was born in 1974, my parents were maybe 6 to 8 years in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They immigrated from Greece and they started life all over again. They had the big dream of opportunity. And when I went to school, I was 4 years old. So instead of going to kindergarten, my parents bypassed that and they sent me to school because I was born in the middle of the year and they kind of sneaked me in. Anyhow, when I went to school, I couldn't speak English because the first language at home was Greek, and English would have been spoken with my brother here and there and some of the neighborhood kids, but not really fluently. Greek was definitely our first language.
Mm.
And when I went to school, I was extremely active, very curious, always liked interacting with friends that were at school. For me, school was a big opportunity to just catch up with people and have fun. And that got in the way of what the actual purpose of school was, which as a kid, I had no idea what that was, but it was to be educated and to somehow come out the other side ready for the workforce or for the next chapter of life or whatever. The way I interacted with people always had me on the wrong side of the teachers, of the law. And they would say stuff, they would say stuff like, Bill, stop talking. And they would say it all the time. I wasn't trying to interrupt the class. It's not my fault. Why are you picking on me? And that kind of became my mantra for the entire time that I was at school. But in the early years, I would get told that I need to change my behavior, and I would get told that I need to do things differently and not interrupt, etc. I didn't actually even know what those words meant. And then I was expected to behave differently. And every time there was a report night, they would tell my parents, and my parents take the side of the teachers because they were new in this country. They wanted me to prosper. They wanted me to follow the rules. And I kind of felt like everyone was against me, everyone was taking it out on me, and it was personal, but it was clearly not personal. I was interrupting and causing problems in class, disrupting other children from learning, etc. So I took that personal attack that I thought was personal into then high school. And as I started to get older and supposedly brighter, I got brighter in the way that I was able to discern who was attacking me and who wasn't. And I would say, I've seen this before. This is going down the same path. I'm going to give this teacher a hard time. And it disrupted my learning. It disrupted my grades. It disrupted everything. And I had vendettas against teachers and stuff like that. And it was dumb, but I thought I was right. I definitely thought I was right. And I would take this attitude to work later on in my 20s, and I would have the same kind of attitude. People would get annoyed with me. I would take it personally. I would say that it was them, etc. And the thing about that is that it's just an ill-formed view of a child that forgot to address how he thought of the world. Like, forgot to look back and go, how did I get here? Why am I still in this situation?
Yeah. At one point in your story, you shared that the therapist asked, could it be you? Do you still
Yeah,
ask yourself that?
yeah. My therapist, I spent thousands of dollars on therapy, and she wouldn't fix the other people for me. Like, they wouldn't.
It seems like enough money to fix everyone, huh?
Yeah, they wouldn't just fall into line, man. And then one day she asked me, Is it maybe you? You seem to be the common denominator in all of your negative interactions with people." And I didn't like that question. I was so taken aback by it. But I reckon I was 28 by then. It was the first time somebody challenged me about my behavior and what I thought was other people's behavior.
And you still remember that. So when did it finally sink in, that comment?
Not long after that she said that, but I stormed out of that particular session. I paid the bill. I was in a really good kind of space with this counselor. I trusted her, etc. And I swore at her on the day, kind of jokingly, but also with a bit of a serious undertone. And she just shrugged and laughed, and she said, "See you next week."
Angry Bill.
Yeah. And then I got back the next session and I thought, well, I think you might have something there. Like, you might be right, perhaps. And we unpacked that, and we started to work on it. And the good thing is I was in and out of counseling for the next 10 years before I became unwell. So I had time to do a little bit of unpacking of that and start setting a different course, although I hadn't really been able to do that really well yet.
How did that question, could it be you, help you in your recovery? Or how does it help you in your recovery?
Sometimes when people have a motto in life, they ask themselves the same thing often, many times. Some people want to achieve something and their motto is, what's my outcome? What do I want to achieve?
Hmm.
And then every time they're in a situation where they're overwhelmed, they might ask, what do I want to achieve? What's my outcome? So that helps them structure their path forward. When I had the first incident with the bleed and ended up in hospital, and they told me there was a faulty blood vessel, I accepted that there was a faulty blood vessel. It was an arteriovenous malformation. That's cool. But
That's
then
cool.
it was like, did you do something to make that blood vessel bleed when maybe it didn't have to? Did you contribute to that?
Oh.
And that's how it helped. It was awesome because it helped me ask questions that were very necessary. And then I discovered that perhaps I did do some things: smoking, drinking excessively, working too many hours, not sleeping enough, stressing a lot. There was heaps of stuff. And then I used that from the age of 37, to today where I'm 50. I've used that kind of question: what's your part in this? How did you impact this in a negative way or in a positive way? And it's my founding principle. Like, it's the thing that guides me through every step of the next thing that I've got to get through or overcome.
Huh. And what are you dealing with now, today, this week, that question has helped guide you through? Could it be you?
So in 2024, there's this downturn in the economy and people are struggling to pay their bills, and it's global, right? And the painting company is where I earn my living, and we're having quiet times. So at the beginning of the year, we struggled with work. There wasn't enough work. And I'm asking myself the whole time, is it the customers that aren't calling, or is it me that I'm
Mm.
not doing something? Have I not done enough? Do I need to look at the website again? I've taken it for granted for a little while. It was doing a great job then, but it seems to have stopped doing a great job now. And then, is it the way that we communicate with our customers? Are we following up sooner? Is our pricing wrong? So that kind of attitude, what am I doing? How is that impacting me? Allows me to objectively look at a situation, and instead of feel like there's nothing I can do, it helps to identify things that I can do. And even if they don't help in the outcome, say they don't actually get the result, they still make me feel like I am doing something positive to understand my business better and to work towards a solution rather than focus on the problem.
Yeah. So you're going back and re-looking at a situation, which sometimes is harder than looking at a new situation and thinking, what about this is me?
Yeah. Those keys that you're looking for a day, and your partner says, "Have you checked the drawer under the bench?" I've checked it 1,000 times, right? And then you go back and sure enough, it's there.
Yes. That's a really good parallel. And in your story, you talked a little bit about your work and how when you were laying in the hospital, all you could think about is the work piling outside of the hospital. And you were laying in your bed fighting for your life. And you also said that you were in a moment in life that you were working a lot and there was a lot of stress. How has your approach to work changed since your strokes?
Yeah, it's interesting when your identity is work and that's all you ever do. When you get to hospital, 2 days later, your identity doesn't change. It doesn't automatically become, health and wellness, get
Mm.
out of here alive. It's still about the work because the guys on Monday are going to work. The clients haven't paid you yet. You need to get paid. You need to pay the bills. You need to pay the guys. You need to pay for your materials. And it makes sense, although it's not the right way to go about it. It makes sense that that's where my mind would have been. Definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't sustainable. And clearly, it's not sustainable for somebody to have all that stuff on their shoulders and nobody to step in and take the reins while I was in recovery. And that's how things have changed. There's somebody there to take the reins now. I don't have to be the only person that a client needs to contact, or the only
Mm.
person that can pay a bill or pay the guys or do a quote, etc. I've duplicated myself with another person who also benefits from the possibility of, I need to not be at work today or tomorrow. Can you step in for me? So I can do that for them and they can do that for me. It's such a relief to have a partner to go down that path. It's no different, but see, I didn't realize this. It's no different to relationship with a family member like your wife or your husband. For me, I didn't realize that that's beneficial to have in business as well.
Mm.
A partnership or somebody that you can call on, your 2IC or whatever you want to call them, that can share the burden. I
Yeah.
thought that I needed to in business, do that all on my own.
Yeah. You're a dad, you're a husband, you own a painting company. You're also a painter. You're painting this morning.
Hmm.
And you're a podcaster. You've been podcasting since 2015. Those are a lot of different roles that you play on a daily basis. So, how can you find someone else to take the lead in each of those roles? How are you able to hand that over?
Well, the podcasting side of it is easy because I love that. And it's not work. That's so easy to do. Although it can be overwhelming at times because of the amount of stuff I have to do for it. It's still my favorite thing to do is
Mm,
meet people, interview them, share their story, inspire people, and then to get the feedback from the YouTube comments or an email from somebody from some other part of the planet who's experienced something like us and then relates to it and feels better about their recovery. That brings me joy. My heart comes alive. Like it's great. It's still time, but it's time allocated very well. My family life, my kids are older now, so they both moved out, so they don't require as much attention as they did, but they were still at home when the podcast started. And I share with them the time that I just be their dad when they were in need. And then when I needed to be in my own space, I would say, hey, this is my time. I got to go and do this. And I don't want to be interrupted for an hour or two.
mhm.
And I was able to create boundaries that I never had before.
Huh.
Previously, we had everyone accessing my time, and I never had bill time. I never had things to do that I enjoyed. And I always felt that. I felt like I didn't have alone time. Sometimes you
Yeah.
need alone time. And I had created that, but I blamed them and I thought it was them again.
Uh-huh.
But it was me. I hadn't allocated alone time and created the boundaries to just say, I need to do this thing that I love for an hour.
Huh.
Can you give me an hour?
And that's communication. And sometimes it's hard to say that because we are part of a family unit or we are part of a partnership. And having the courage to communicate what we need is important. And you were able to say, I created this time. And some people, it's like, no, I don't have time for this or time for that. And sometimes it's creating time, which is creating boundaries so that we have time. And sometimes we have to have hard conversations for that. And you did it.
Yeah. And you have to prioritize things. Like work's important still, but it gets less of a priority than it used to. So I do less work in the daily routine than I used to. And by
Mm,
that, I could easily have spent 18 hours a day or 16 hours a day or 14 hours a day, depending on how energetic I was feeling before stroke on work.
mm,
And because I had all those tasks to do on my own and I didn't have a person to take some of those tasks, I did it all and it had to be done.
yeah.
Whereas now work has taken a back seat for me and I have replaced myself in that environment by promoting somebody else into that position and I do the administrative tasks and the quoting, etc. And with family, the difference with family was if I did those things that I loved, it recharged my batteries and it made me a better version for them. So when they needed me to step up, I could step up. When they needed me to chop them off or pick them up, I could because I had my time to me and it recharged me and I felt fulfilled. So now I've got time for you. If I didn't do that for me, then I would have done what they requested anyway, but I would have done it reluctantly and I would have whinged about it. And it might have been obvious to them that I wasn't happy about doing that, thinking that it was about them, which it wasn't. It was about me.
Hmm. Could it be me?
Once again, yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And I hear you saying that you prioritized your time based on a feeling. You said that podcasting, you love it. You're passionate about it. You love the relationships that are built. You love the purpose behind it. And setting time aside to do something that feels purposeful, that feels energizing, that feels engaging, that gives you more energy in your relationships down the road.
It does. It makes you happier. It allows dopamine, serotonin, all those things to flow through your body, which are supportive of brain health and recovery after stroke. It allows you to clear your head and to get those lingering thoughts, intrusive thoughts of why can't I ever have time to myself, and all those endless loops of unhelpful questions that we can ask ourselves.
Yeah.
And then it makes time for battery filling endeavors that then have a ripple effect across your entire life.
Mm, yeah. And others, the lives of others.
Indeed. Yeah.
You started volunteering with the stroke community pretty early on. What was your first step in finding a way to volunteer?
It's strange. When I speak to stroke survivors, one of the first things they say is, I want to help other people.
Yeah.
And I was the same, and I didn't know why. Like, I had no idea why. So I'm only a year into this journey of mine. I've had 2 brain hemorrhages and some real serious issues about my cognition and my memory and all that kind of stuff. And I had a lot of time on my hands because I'm not working as much as I was, because I couldn't. And I also didn't understand what it was like to be a stroke survivor in the long-term sense. So I needed to meet other people who I could relate to, who could relate to me, who could perhaps give me some insights
Yeah.
into what I was going through. And the Stroke Foundation has a program, and I don't have no idea how I found out about it, but they have a program which goes out and talks about stroke and in the hope of preventing stroke and allowing people to recognize the signs of stroke. So again, without any expectation or too much information, I just went along to meet whoever was there. And they told us that we could be smart stroke speakers, safe stroke speakers, and volunteer our time if we had some time to go and speak to communities about your experience and then how to prevent stroke.
Hmm.
And that's all it was. It was just a need for me to fill my time with something constructive and meet other people and then overcome my fear of presenting on stage and speaking in public. But I had got to that stage already thinking, look, I might not have been here 12 months ago. And my mortality was at the front of my mind. And I just felt like, well, I think I'm going to go and do this regardless of whether it's hard, scary, or whatever. And I don't know what's going to come of it. That's how it started. That's how the whole next 12 years started.
Huh. So you found an organization that focused on stroke. You reached out to them and asked what you could do. You mentioned
Yes.
at one point that the first day that you showed up for volunteer training, you met people that still stick in your mind. You were inspired by the way that they shared their story. And it's so powerful to hear each other's stories. Both you and I do this. This is something that we both love to do, meeting stroke survivors and hearing ways that they have shifted their perspective on life and redefined a purpose. And you clearly have redefined your purpose in time. You wrote a book entitled The Unexpected Way That Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened to Me. And I know that a lot of stroke survivors say they want to write a book, and not all of them do. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of writing that book while you were going through recovery?
Firstly, what happened was I caught myself saying that sentence. I think stroke's the best thing that happened to me.
Huh.
It was during a podcast interview. It was around episode 70, and the other stroke survivor on the other side of the podcast said the same thing. And I'm like, "Ooh, that's weird.
Ooh, ding, 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 ding.
A, why did I say that? And B, why did you say that?"
Huh.
And of course, we had no idea why we both said that. We just felt that. We had the felt sense of this thing that we went through, which was really traumatic and difficult and scary and life threatening. Somehow we came out the other side and we experienced this growth from somewhere. And all I got was curious, right? And when I get curious, I start asking people who I know in my circle lots of questions. One of my mentors, a great mate of mine, a guy called Marvin Oka, I said to him, Marvin, I found myself saying this thing and somebody else said this thing. And Marvin has a skill where he models other people's behaviors to implement them, like in an organization or wherever, right? So a classic example would be excellence in leadership. They pick a couple of people who are excellent leaders. They model how they do excellent leadership. They create a little 10-step program or a course or something, and then they teach a whole bunch of upcoming leaders the necessary skills to be an excellent leader. And he said, why don't you run a modeling program and see if in fact there is a path towards that sentence?
Huh.
So I reached out to the stroke survivors on my Instagram community that follow me. It's about 5,000 at the time. And I said, does anyone else think that stroke's the best thing that happened to them? And of course there was. So I just interviewed them to see what the similarities were in the stories. And at the beginning, it was very difficult to extrapolate any data, anything concrete. But then the patterns started to emerge. They all did the same 10 things roughly. So it wasn't a book yet. For me, it was just a curiosity about how did you guys get there? Because I want to know how I got there. And then we discovered that we all got there very, very similar paths. Different. Some started in one area, others started in another area. Some got there really quickly. Some took a decade. Like it was completely different, but the same steps. And then when I would chat to people about it, they would say to me, tell me about this thing. How does somebody else do that? Or how do you get there? And I'm like, I can't tell you in a sentence or two how to get there. I think I have to make a book about it.
Huh.
And then the book came to be. So I had the idea, and then it took 2 years to start writing. And then it took another 2 years to write it. Now, why I'm saying that about the timeline is it's really important for people to know that it's okay if it takes a long time and the idea develops further. But the seed got planted 4 years before the book was released, and then the book happened. And from that, when I said I wanted to write a book, I didn't want the book to be about me. It'd be the most boring book ever. It needed to be about how to achieve something amazing and how to overcome this terrible thing we've all been through. And it was even better that I could then bring other stroke survivors in and they could say how they got to achieve this thing so that we can tell other stroke survivors, maybe you can get there. I know it's terrible now. I know it's hard now, but you never know what the future holds. From a growth perspective, it can be the catalyst to get you to that point where it becomes the best thing that happened.
And now you continue that work in your podcast. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the podcast interviews that I do start with the first question is always tell me a little bit about what happened to you. And then we try and get an understanding of what the person's life was like before stroke, what it's like after stroke, what the challenges are that they're facing, and what their hopes are for the future and how they're working towards trying to get to this improvement, recovery, better outcome, whatever it is, what they've learned from stroke, what they want to tell other people about stroke. So it's really about trying to change the narrative around stroke, because I know that most people who haven't had a stroke, when they hear the word stroke, they always assume the worst. Stroke survivors in hospital also get the worst case scenario, unfortunately, from some of their doctors. You'll never walk again, or you will never go back to work again, and all this weird stuff. And I just want to change all of that narrative so that I have the biggest database of interviews that disprove all of that stuff ever. And it's impossible for a stroke survivor to go to Google and do a search and not come across the biggest database ever of stroke survivors saying they had a terrible time, there's all the challenges, and this is how they've continued to grow and move forward. That's the idea of it.
Where can people find you, Bill?
recoveryafterstroke.com. You'll find me, you'll find the interviews, you'll find some links to some tools. You'll be able to find a way to connect with me for coaching. It's the one place to go and get everything. And then there's also links there to the social media, Instagram page, which is an amazing community of people. And as I've always done, I ask questions of the people following me. And then sometimes there'll be a 150 thread response
Wow.
to a particular question about stroke recovery. One of the weirdest questions I asked recently was on behalf of another stroke survivor who wanted to know if there's other stroke survivors who hear voices in their affected side since the stroke. I had no idea that that's a thing, and apparently it's a thing, and that gave a lot of relief to the person who asked me that question. That's the only way out, is with others. You can't do it on your own.
Agreed. Bill, thank you. It's been an honor to work with you throughout the past month and a half or so. Thank you for working on your story and for spending time with me throughout the months.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for including me. Thank you for helping me tell my story in another way. It's really important. And I hope that some people listening resonate and reach out, and all the best. Thank you so much.
Today, we close with a moment of pause to honor the way that Bill Gasiamis shared wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope. And we give thanks.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.
Thank you for joining us for Part 2, Bill Gasiamis' interview. For the full story, listen to Part 1, Bill Gasiamis' story. Today, Bill shared how he turned his stroke experiences into a catalyst for personal growth. He converted his long-held victim mindset into a life of personal responsibility, action, and advocacy. Even the hardest challenges can lead to unexpected strength and transformation. Remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive. You are inspirational. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with others and consider donating to Beyond Stillness Stories After Stroke.
If you are part of the stroke community and have a story you'd like to share on the show, please contact us. Email molly@beyondstillness.org.